For a little while last night, I figured out my problems with my save system. This is to store map tiles, so I'll break it down because I do have to go back through and clean things up a little bit. So the first thing I want to do, I created a new custom event. You might have seen this in the previous video, but the first custom event, or the first custom event that runs is the save game, and then it will run the map store. So first it saves everything, then it stores the map. So I have 3 variables here for my tables, and I want to initialize them with the value of 1, so it starts in the top left corner of my table. And then the first thing I want to do here, or the next thing I want to do, is clear this collection that I made called surface maps. This is going to store each of the maps that was saved into a collection, and then it's going to reload all the tile information based on what maps have been saved in this. So this is a surface map collection that is created as surface maps are loaded and whatnot. It's going to reset the table first, clear it out, and then it's going to perform this map loop here. So the map loop is going to loop through every single map in the game, so I have some conditions inside to skip over maps that aren't ones that I want. So first I want to check if the map has been loaded. Has this map been loaded? And there are some, like the title screen map, orbit map, a few maps that will not be loaded. They get unloaded when you leave them, and so it will skip them. And I'm going to take out this log message here, but for now I'm going to leave it in there. Then it's going to check a variable that, if you watch the last videos, I put like it's a map variable, and each surface map is kind of acting as a constant to say what kind of map it is. So there's space maps, which are the ones that the spaceship flies around on. System maps, like the orbit map and the title screen, and anywhere that there's just a displayed map. And then surface maps. So I was going to check. Surface maps are the ones that I want to store. That's going to be any planet surface. So it'll skip over anything that isn't a surface, and if it is, I want to resize the table first to the size of my maps. Right now they're all 50 by 50, so I think I'm going to increase the size eventually. It might be 100 by 100. And for the Z size, I want it to be table.size, and I want it to get the current size of the save data table. That's going to be 0 when it starts. And 3 here is the Z-axis, so it's going to check how many Z layers there are. So in the very beginning there's going to be 0, and it's going to add a 1 here, so that will give me Z1. Suddenly table size will be increased to 1, so the next time this loop runs, it's going to see that the table is 1, so it's going to add a 1 to that, and that will give me Z2. So it just, each time it adds a 1, so it increments the Z layer. So that'll be Z layer 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. 1 for each of the surface maps. And I've got a little log message here for storing the map, and I can skip that. Scooch these up. I like them to be straight, but it doesn't matter. This is going to store the map ID, Z layer, and main tile set. So in this collection, surface maps, it's going to store the ID of the map so I can retrieve it later. It's going to store what layer of the table, which Z layer of the table is actually going to hold all of the tile information for this map. And then it's going to retrieve the top left corner of the map, just to grab a floor tile, because every single floor tile on every surface map is going to be part of a tile set that's called biome_ground. So that way I have the biome stored in the tile set. That I can check that separately. So I can check the biome that I need from the tile set name, and I can skip over this log message here, put this over there. I just want to store my log messages here. And then this builds the save table. So this is what stores all of every tile set, or every tile in the map. So I've just got this tile grab variable. I don't actually need this variable. I could just copy paste that little script into the value spot. I might just do that. So I don't really need that. And this will edit the cell. This will store each of the tile set names, and right now it might be better to use IDs than names, but I only need to use names right now, so I'll skip over explaining what that means. So that's all there is to saving the map. So anytime you go into a map, like a surface map, there's these resource tiles, and you can mine them out. Now, if you don't have this second part of the save system, when you reload the game, anything that you do to the map will just restore and look like this. So you could reload a save and effectively respawn all the resource tiles on a map. So there's a second part to this, which I've put too far down in this chain here, so I want to put it up here because there's a delay here, and I don't want it to be after the delay. I want it to be right when it's checking all the maps. So this one here is checking loaded maps that the player is playing on, and this one's checking surface maps that have been stored in the save. So I want to go into here, and this is a trick that I use sometimes. I've created a second table called the save scan table. Let me jump in there and explain that. The save scan table, I've given a size, and it is actually the same size as the data map table. I've got it set to the size of all of my maps, which is 50 by 50, but I've only got one Z layer. So this way, when I do a table loop, I can just scan this one table here, or use this one table to get positions and retrieve information from one layer of another table. So that's a little tricky to explain and a little bit advanced, but when I'm in the loaded trigger here, if you load a game, it's going to run all this random stuff here, and then it's going to do this collection loop. And what that does is this is going to loop through the surface maps collection, the one that's created when you save a game, that stores all of the current surface maps and which ones are loaded, and they're all going to be open and loaded if they're in a save game. So I've got a few more kinks to work out, so I got to try this with like 100 different maps. And then inside this is a table loop. So the table loop is going to loop through my single layer scan table, and I'm going to use these same three variables, x, y, and z. That gives me a position in the table, but I don't actually need the z because I always want, it's just going to check this one level of the table. It's going to loop through this table and check. This is what's important here, is all of this code. So I'm going to copy paste it into a text file here, and it's very tough to see that. So first I want to enter this down. The very first entry here, so the very first part, what this is doing here is it's checking several split collections. I'm getting the first entry. Let me start from the inside. So collection entry here is representing a line in the collection that's being looped through. So that's going to return, I already closed it out. That's going to return the map ID with a semicolon, the Z layer, which might be 6, and desert wall. So it's going to have a tile set stored here. This part doesn't matter. All I really want to store is this first word. But what this is doing is getting the first element in this collection. It's splitting that into a collection and grabbing the first entry. So it's going to grab the map ID. So technically this part here is map ID, and I can actually put that here inside parentheses. This is technically, I'll edit the next line so it's updated to the changes I'm making. Good. Okay, so as we go through this here, this is to get the map ID, and that's stored in the first part of the collection, or the first entry of the collection. That becomes this, basically. Now it's trying to find oh, I don't even need that there. Just kidding. I don't know why I did that. Map ID. There we go. Okay, so it's getting this first collection item from here to get the map ID, and then it's going to check the current tile that's being looped through. This is an interesting concept because it's looping through a table that's the same size as the map. The X and Y values are going to basically be coordinates on the map. So the top left corner of the map is 1, 1, and so forth. So the top left corner of the map is 1, 1. The second from the left is 1 or 2, 1, and so forth. And so each of these X and Y values, as it goes through the loop, is going to increase by 1 as it scans across each row and goes down. I think it goes left to right and then down a row. I'm not 100% sure. It might go vertically. But all it's going to do is, by using the position in the table, as it's looping through, this is how I get that position, the X and Y here. I multiply that by 32 because all the tiles on a map are 32 pixels. But then I have to subtract 16 because I want the very center of the tile. So it gives me the position of each tile at the center. Otherwise it sometimes doesn't work right. And then this last number here is 0 for the Z layer. So it's going to check the ground level on the map. So this first will retrieve a tile ID or a tile name. So it might give you something like dirt, grass, ice, snow. And that's how to grab the current tile on the map to see what's currently on the map. Next, it has to check it against what has been stored in the table. So it's doing the same thing here, but it's grabbing the second collection entry here, which is the table axis, number 6. So let's say I change that to a 6. I actually want to copy paste this whole line here. So I can make the changes here, and I can leave the original script above. And I'll just change that to a 6. So basically that's going to do the same thing and check the save data maps table. That's where all the tile names are stored from the previous save event. So when you save the game, it creates and stores all the tile names inside save data maps. And so it's going to loop through the scan table, but we can use those coordinates, the X and Y coordinates, as it's looping through the scan table to point at items in the save data maps table. So I don't know if I need Paint to explain this. I don't have Excel or something on this computer, but let's say I have these two tables. I'll just make two quick and easy tables with like 2 or 3 columns, maybe 5 columns, couple rows, and do the same thing here. So the tables just look like this. It's just like a grid of cells that store values, and it's like a super variable basically. So say that this is the scanner table and that this is the saved map data. So I'm currently looping through this table, the scan table. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3. Oop. Let me just make a dot instead. It's going to go 1, 2. That's a tiny dot. Oh my god, what? Doot, 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 etc. It's going to loop through every cell here. And as it does so, I can point at the cells over here because it'll have the same X and Y coordinate. X and Y here, as it's looping through this table, will let me point at this particular cell. So this is the one that contains all the tileset names that were saved. And so it's also, this table, however, has multiple Z layers, so it's more like a cube of tables like this. And then there's a whole bunch of rows or whatever. You know, as the Z layer increases, it goes further down. And so this last one here, this collection entry, is grabbing the Z layer that I want to check, and it's, you know, Z layer 1 is the very top, Z layer 2 is next, Z layer 3 is after that. And each of these will contain all the tiles for each map. But I only need this one table here to scan through one layer at a time. So that's what's happening effectively. So this is basically going to check, is the tile on the map is the tile on the map the same as the tile stored in the map save table. So it's got to check to see if the tile that is on the map has been changed. So when you save the map, the table is going to store a different set of tile names. But then when you reload the game, the map's going to be refreshed. So this is going to find, you know, resource tiles that are on the map by default. But if you save the game after you've mined them out, they won't be in the save table. So if it doesn't find the same information in both, it'll take this path. It just found a changed tile. So the first thing I need to do is clear the roof tile out. And in order to do that, I need to make sure my Z is set to 32 because the roof tiles are one layer higher. And then I'm basically just going to use the same coordinates, x times 32 minus 16, because x is our position in the table, y is our y position in the table. And then if I multiply it by 32, that's the pixel size of each tile on the map. and then I subtract 16 to get the center, or position it at the center of a tile. Don't know why I keep coughing right now. I want the tile set to be set to none, and the tile to be set to 0. So this is just an empty blank tile, effectively erasing it. And then the map, that's basically the same thing from earlier. It's the first collection entry stored in our collection, in our sector maps collection, or in whatever maps collection you make. So that will be the map ID, because it'll pull the very first value here. That's where it's going to place this tile or erase this tile. And then the second one is set up to replace the wall tile, which if it's a resource tile or a dirt tile, it's going to be a wall tile. So it's set up to replace the tiles with just a default ground tile from that tile set, from that biome's tile set. Because when you mine something, it'll never be replaced with like a river or a dirt tile. It's always going to replace it with a simple ground tile. So I use the same collection entry here for the map ID. Make sure I'm set to floor. And then this second one here, this is where it gets a little bit funky. It's a big long one. So what I want to do first, as you can see here, the third entry in this collection is a two-part name. Every tile set in the game I've named starting with the biome, followed by the type. So it's going to be wall, lower, ground, etc. So the very first one, I'm splitting into a collection this value from my collections that basically I have to use the same words over and over. This is an entry in a collection, the sector maps collection. This is splitting that entry into another collection and giving me the third value here. I want the third item, which is desert wall. However, I want to split this also. I want to split this in half and just get the first element. I want to get the biome, so I'm using another text split. So it's collection item, the first item. I wish I could highlight multiple sections. So it starts here and ends over here. I want the first item of this collection, which is desert. So I want the first item of the third entry in this collection. So I want to split it twice. And to do that, I have to get the third. I have to split the third element into two by the underscore. So this is a, you probably just look at that and use it yourself. But in order to pick the tile set, I have to get that first word and combine it with underscore ground. So it would give me a result that looks like this as the tile set. So my tile set will be desert ground, and the basic ground tile is always going to be the first top left tile in my tile set, so tile 0, and I position it the same way that I did the erasure. So that's just going to restore any changes that I made to my tiles on a map. And to test that, create a new game. First I want to kill this guy. Bounced off. Kill him. Scan this planet. Turbo mode everything. And then run a deep scan here so I can just knock that out.
Plant life detected.
Now every time you go back to the planet, it'll just have all the hotspots ready to go. Now I go down onto the planet with my rover, and I'll mine out one of these little segments and return to space. I do have a bug I haven't removed. I have to set it up so it turns off the controls for the rover, because right now it does not. And now, when I go to save the game, I'll use this top one, map reloading. Does a lot of little progress bars, says it successfully saved. And we see that it's still got some log messages I have to remove. Now I'll go back to the title screen and reload my game. Now when I dock at the planet and go down to the surface, that piece that I mined away should still be gone. And here we go. I've got just the ones that I didn't touch. And I can do this several times if I want. Remine a piece, turn to space. I got to turn off this control. And then save over this. It'll do its thing, tell me it's successfully saved. And then I can go back to reload. It'll take a second in the very beginning because it's spawning things and doing all this stuff. It doesn't take very long, like a half a second. And voila! All my tile changes are perfectly stored. I can mine out everything, turn to space. I can have that selected if I want. I can save the game again. No more copper. I do have to do a little bit more work with those save and exit menus. I don't know how much I like them. Lastly now, when I go back to the planet,
Entering planetary orbit.
as the save game said, it should have no more copper. Now, the other thing is, if you do unload and reload maps mid-game, like if I leave the planet and were to unload this map and reload it again, it would then have the copper on it once again. So I would have to create something to check every time I've reloaded the map within the game, and pull any changes from the table to overwrite any tiles that got respawned. So that's a case that I haven't run into yet. I might run into it later. I don't know. I haven't figured out a way to check it yet. So this is probably good enough for now for me to at least, test things, jump on planets, mine, and make sure nothing respawns after I reload. The reloading and saving system is one of the more complicated things to build, especially if you're working with maps that you can edit, or if the player can destroy tiles. Saving and reloading normally won't save your changes to the tiles on the map, so that's a really useful trick that you should probably use in your own projects. That's probably all I'm going to do for now. Might be all the time I really have to do anything right now. I have not slept since I got off work, and I work night shift, so I'm a little bit beat. But just for a quick look, if you want to screenshot or look at any of these scripts, none of this is contextual at the moment. There's no helpful titles or information, but you can rewatch this video and see exactly how I did everything from saving the tiles to tables to reloading all the tiles when you've changed things. So ending the video with another quick look, go to screamingbrainstudios.com. Get all kinds of free public domain assets, textures, buttons, interface elements. There are hexagonal tiles, there's game pieces, there's a bunch of stuff. It's all public domain, free to use. Tutorials include ways to add your own graphics to some of those asset packs, how I made some of them, and how to do versions of some things that there aren't tools for anymore. And then if you need tools, I've got a whole list of free tools for you. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope that was somewhat helpful or informative, and maybe you guys got something useful out of it for your own save game systems. But I will be back as soon as I can. Now that the save system's working, I can try to get back to work on a few other aspects of the game if you guys are getting bored watching me doing interface work. But let me know if there's anything you guys want to see, if you have any questions. If you join my Patreon, you get access to my Discord, so you can message me directly, or just leave a comment below and I'll get back to you. Thank you guys for watching. Catch you later.